Hello again from Fox News in Washington. With the political season heating up, we want to focus on the midterm elections. And we begin with one of the campaign's key players, former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. Governor, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Let's start with a controversy over Rand Paul, who, of course, just won the Republican nomination for the U.S. Senate seat in Kentucky. You were a big early supporter of Mr. Paul. As you know, he's now under fire for criticizing the 1964 Civil Rights Act for banning discrimination in private establishments. First of all, do you think that Rand Paul is right or wrong about that? And secondly, what do you think of this whole controversy?
I think Rand Paul is right in his clarifications about what he means and his interpretation of the impacts of the Civil Rights Act. He's right on when he says he is a supporter of civil rights. He's a supporter of the Civil Rights Act and equal rights. He would have marched with Martin Luther King Jr., he said, and he will oppose any efforts to diminish or erode away any aspect of the Civil Rights Act. So he's supportive. And I think there's certainly a double standard at play here. When Rand Paul had anticipated that he'd be able to engage in a discussion, he being a libertarian-leaning constitutional conservative, being able to engage in a discussion with a TV character, a media personality who perhaps had an agenda in asking the question and then interpreting his answer the way that she did. He wanted to talk about, evidently, some hypotheticals as it applies to impacts on the Civil Rights Act, as it impacts our Constitution. So he was given the opportunity finally to clarify, and unequivocally, he has stated that he supports the Civil Rights Act.
Do you see some similarities to what politicians and the press did to you in the fall of 2008?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, one thing that we can learn in this lesson that I have learned and Rand Paul is learning now is don't assume that you can engage in a hypothetical discussion about constitutional impacts with a reporter or a media personality who has an agenda, who may be prejudiced before they even get into the interview in regards to what your answer may be, and then the opportunity that they seize to get you. You know, they're looking for that gotcha moment, and that's what it evidently appears to be that they did with Rand Paul. But I'm thankful that he was able to clarify his answer about his support for the Civil Rights Act.
Having said all that, Governor, Rand Paul is a strong libertarian, and even some conservatives have doubts about some of his positions. Let's put him up on the screen. He wants to close the U.S. facility at Guantanamo Bay. He wants to repeal the Patriot Act. He wants to abolish the Department of Education, and he wants to end subsidies for farmers. Does he carry his political philosophy too far? Should he tone it down, particularly in a campaign for the U.S. Senate?
Well, I won't speak to each one of Rand Paul's positions because no candidate is going to be the ideal or the perfect candidate in any voter's mind. Rand Paul is not a perfect, always to be agreed with candidate. Nobody is. But Rand Paul is a libertarian. He's clear in his libertarian leanings. He asks questions about implications as it applies to our Constitution, our economy, our society, when a law is proposed and a law is enacted. And I think that more of those who serve in the Senate, and Rand we anticipate will be serving in the Senate, should ask questions about the constitutionality of policies that are proposed. I think more questions should be asked as to the impacts, and Rand isn't going to be shy about asking the questions.